Hey everybody, how you doing? Gamble the Clown here with a very special presentation of the Suburban Sideshow podcast today. We're going to be talking about ACS, the Army Community Services, a really great group of people I volunteer with at Fort Bragg. Uh, the ACS is on every single post, and this year we celebrated 60 years of faithful service to our United States Army troops and their families. So, one thing that I really enjoy is reading history books, learning about where we come from as a nation, and very interesting stories about not only our veterans, but also their families as well. So, ACS, in a nutshell, well, I will say that the ACS, Army Community Services, is a government organization. So, I'm unfortunately unable to do really any documentaries with ACS without going through their public affairs officer or spokesperson. I'm just going to introduce you to what it is the ACS does and where it comes from. So, the ACS Army Community Service officially began on July 25th, 1965, when General Harold K. Johnson, who was then the Army Chief of Staff, announced its establishment. But the need for caring for our families of our active duty troops goes far beyond into history since the formation of the United States Army itself. Looking at the history going back as far as the 17s to the 1800s, families of soldiers, often referred to as camp followers, provided essential services like cooking, nursing, and mending uniforms. Volunteer efforts, particularly by Army wives, were crucial for supporting soldiers and their families, often involving charity and church work. So, as our soldiers were essentially fighting for our freedom in the 1700s and 1800s, the Revolutionary War times, it was the families of these soldiers that followed them around and provided care and support. So we can see an example of this if you were to watch the movie, uh, watch any movie really, where the troops were deployed and the families back home were tasked with very difficult and often mentally taxing and challenging tasks. So then we look at the World War II era in the 1940s. The Army began to acknowledge more direct responsibility for soldiers' families. Organizations like the American Red Cross, USO, and Army Emergency Relief emerged to organize civilian volunteers to provide assistance. The AER, or Army Emergency Relief, funded by public donations, became a significant resource for addressing social welfare problems of soldiers and their families, and its structure and operations laid much of the groundwork for ACS, the modern Army Community Services. Post World War II and the need for a formal system. While volunteer efforts were vital, they often lacked continuity. Programs would disappear or stagnate when their originators moved or left the service. By the 1960s, a significant increase in the number of married soldiers, coupled with the inability of existing systems to handle the resulting family problems, highlighted the need for a more stable and continuous system of social services. Lieutenant Colonel Emma M. Baird, with her experience in AER, was instrumental in planning the structure and organization of a family services program that would become ACS. So, uh, the ACS has always existed in a form of volunteers, of their spouses and families coming behind the troops and supporting them wherever they needed it. And this went all the way until the 1960s, where a more formal system was established to help out families of our troops. Now, the primary goals of ACS when it began was to provide a flexible framework for the operation of a viable system of social services. This aimed to address the previous issue of inconsistent and short lived volunteer programs. One thing I always say that if you want something to just be destroyed, you only need two things: people and time. Uh, Even the best efforts that we do have to be volunteers, we see this in churches where somebody gets an idea, they may bring 4 or 5 people along with them, and after a few years, it kind of fizzles out. But we have to remember we are dealing with the government here. Okay, once the government starts something, it does not go away. So the government needed a sort of formalized, as being the military, a formalized system of being able to care for troops and their families, and also to increase services to soldiers and their families through better coordination of services and better use of volunteer labor. It recognized the importance of family well being to overall Army readiness. Pretty soon, I'm going to show you 5 things that are really that are a really big problem to our active duty troops and their families. And ACS works very hard and has a lot of programs that help out, uh, making sure that their troops and their families are ready for whatever mission or task they are assigned. And as you know, the military life is not easy. To mitigate the unique demands of military life, foster life skills, strengthen resilience, and promote the need for strong and ready soldiers, families, and civilians. So, when I am volunteering for ACS, normally I don't bring my cameras or anything around because my focus is just directly to our active duty troops and their families. Like, that is the main goal. I normally don't promote a lot of the stuff I do there. Whatever resources that they want to share, whatever pictures or videos they want to share, I do. But a lot of the stuff I do, I have to redact quite a bit because I hear a lot of stories of how difficult it is for their children, for their spouses, and for active duty troops as well. And really, the ACS really helps out uh, mitigate a lot of problems they may have. So one of the things they do is they have programs that help military spouses find jobs out in town, start businesses. They have resources available to help families find counseling services, activities for children, activities for stronger and healthier marriages and family life. That's what the ACS does. They have a lot of great programs that really facilitate and help our active duty troops not only acclimate to the military life if you are coming in, help provide counseling services, get counseled for when you've probably been in there 15, 20 years and you're really struggling. And not only that, but they also help you find resources out in town for wherever you may be going after the military. Over the decades, ACS has continually evolved, adding programs to address the challenging needs of military families, such as the Exceptional Family Member Program, EFMP, Family Advocacy Program, FAP, Financial Readiness, and Deployment Support. Today, ACS remains a vital pillar of support for military communities worldwide, contributing to the overall readiness and resilience of the Army. So, yesterday I was at the ACS 60th birthday party, and I talked to probably 40%, it felt like, of all the families on post. They lined up for hours in my line to get a balloon. So my lines move a little slower because I like to spend time with these children, encouraging them, reaching out to the active duty troops and their spouses as well, the grown-ups, encouraging them, to stay strong. It is difficult, and encouraging them to get involved in all of the great things that ACS has to offer them. So, a couple stories that I did want to share is there was a kid who was standing next to me, probably 17 years old, probably 6'1", 6'2", very big, looking jacked, long hair. And, it was the 60s birthday party, but, a backpack giveaway. So, really encouraging kids to be excited about going back to school this fall with a free backpack and showing them all the great resources they have in the Army. Uh, he's standing next to me, and I said, "You ready for school?" And he, very stoic, very straight face, says, "Yes, because I'm going to graduate next year. I'm going to go right in the Army. I'm going to do this job. I'm going to be a crewman, and, it's going to be great." So I said, "Okay, well, you've got this great plan. You're very specific. I like it. Now, what are your plans for when you leave the military?" So everybody started laughing, and he looked very confused. And I said, "Yeah, see, that's the problem. Everybody focuses on getting in, making all your tests, making all the requirements, getting into basic training, going to AIT, going to your unit. But then, as soon as you get to the unit, you think you are Superman and you are going to be there forever." Unfortunately, we don't need the elderly fighting wars. So there comes a time when you are going to leave the military. So then, look very confused. And I said, we got two principles we look at in the military: infill and exfil. Infill, how we are getting into the fight, and exfil, how we are getting out of the fight. Most people focus on the infill. They say, okay, we're going to go there. This is the enemy we're going to fight. But then if something happens, then people don't want to think about the exfil. Then they get cut off from their team, cut off from air support, and then you are in a bad situation. So, everybody laughed because there was a crowd of people standing there. And then I said, "Oh, yeah, you need to think about that. You need to think about how you get in and think about how you get out." And that is what I do when I counsel a lot of these families is, I focus on uh, really encouraging them to not only work hard when they are in the military, but work hard because you are going to be leaving the military at some point. So you have to focus on what you're going to be doing, what sort of skills you are going to be building while you are in the training you receive, going to school, going to learn uh, all kinds of different skills that are going to be marketable in the civilian world. And another example of this, I was clowning around at an elementary school on post, and there was a kid there who was in fifth grade, very bright kid, loves reading. So of course, I was like, "All right, I'm going to talk to this kid for like 5 hours." Well, but then he tells me that his dad's getting out of the military, involuntary separated because of medical reasons, and now he's going to have to figure out life in the civilian world. Now, this kid's in fifth grade. He's grown up in the military on post. This is all this kid knows. So it's going to be very challenging, not only for him, because it was challenging for his family when his father had to be faced with multiple deployments, but now it's going to be a challenge because now he's going to have to struggle with the fact that there is no more deployments, that you are home every single day, which your family will like. But for the soldier who did not want to leave the military, this is going to be a big struggle. So that's why I volunteer a lot at the ACS, and why it's important uh, that when we see veterans out in town, that not only do we thank them, but we welcome them home, and we provide lots of opportunities and encouragement because they're facing difficult times. So I've got five things here, five very popular things that military families struggle with while they are in. Number one, this is the biggest problem in the military: frequent relocations, PCS, or what we consider permanent change of stations. Now, military families move on an average of 2 to 3 years. The constant move means disrupting established routines, finding new homes, and adapting to new communities, schools, and support networks. For spouses, it can hinder career progression, and for children, it means repeatedly adjusting to new environments and making new friends, potentially impacting academic and social development. So, not only are children going to have to struggle with this, but ultimately adults are going to have to struggle with this as well because, for the soldier, it's the easiest for the soldier to change station because, from our perspective, we're just like, okay, we're just going to be going to a different building all day, doing sort of the same thing. We're in the same uniform, talking the same way to people, having the same attitude about work. We're gonna have to wake up and run. It's gonna be the same sort of routine no matter where you go. But for the spouses and the children, it's a completely different ball game. And thankfully, ACS groups are at every single post around the world, which really help to uh, provide a really great foundation for when families come there to check in, to find out what's going on out in town, to find different resources, counseling, and activities for everybody to do. So that's the easy part, but the hard part is when you get there, you got to make new friends. If your spouse is working out in town, they might have to, lose their job, or it may be difficult to continue school, or there's a whole bunch of different things, and that is the most disruptive to the military community is constant constant permanent change of station. Number two. I mean, you would think that this would be number one, but you move around a lot more than you are deployed, which is number two: deployments and separations. Long periods of separation due to deployments are a defining characteristic of military life. This creates immense stress for both the deployed service member and the family left behind. The at home parent often becomes a single parent overnight, juggling all household and parenting responsibilities while coping with worry and uncertainty about their loved one's safety. Children can experience emotional distress, anxiety, and behavioral changes due to a parent's absence. Reunions, when the deployed soldier comes back, can also present challenges as families must readjust to new roles and routines. You would think that this would be the biggest problem, uh, but the biggest problem is the constant moving, and being in the military. What we like is routines. We love routines, especially for soldiers. We love routines, but a lot of times these get disrupted. And for the soldier, it's easier for us to adapt to things than it is the family. So now we move on. When we move on to talking about deployments, uh, the spouse that stays behind is it's often difficult because a lot of these families have multiple children, and a lot of these families not only have multiple children, but a lot of these families have multiple children with special needs. So the deployed soldier leaves, and the spouse that stays behind has to care for multiple children without the structure of two parents. So basically, it's like you really have no days off. So that in itself is very uh, difficult. So the soldiers will deploy roughly from probably about a year to 15 months, something like that. It's a very long time. And after a month or so, then you start getting in sort of a routine because you have to get in a routine in order to manage day to day. You can't just have chaos. So when the soldier returns and the reunion's great, okay, mom, dad's back home, whatever. And now you've adjusted for all these months without your family, just like the soldier sort of did when they were deployed. So that can even be. extremely difficult as well. So what ACS does is they have a lot of really great resources to counseling, but they have continuous opportunities to engage with other spouses that are going through the same thing you are going through, and to find a really great community of support. A few years ago, I was cloning around down there at an event, and it was a whole bunch of military spouses and children, but the soldiers weren't there because a whole group of them just got sent and deployed. So now here I am, providing some hope and encouragement to the spouses and their families while their troops are deployed. Just only a few days after they're deployed, mind you. So it was sort of bittersweet. It was great. I'm very thankful that our troops are being deployed, but I've seen this on both sides. I've been deployed, and I understand the struggle for families that stay back home. Number three, military spouse employment and career challenges. Despite often being highly educated, military spouses face significantly higher unemployment and underemployment rates compared to their civilian counterparts. Frequent moves disrupt career continuity, and employers may be hesitant to hire someone with a transient lifestyle. This can lead to financial strain on the family and impact the spouse's sense of purpose and self worth. So there is a few businesses that I deal with, that I support, that are run by military spouses, and every couple years you'll see, okay, we got to move. Yeah, because my husband is being transferred, is being PCS to another post, and then another business will pop up and say, "Hey, it's great. We just moved here, looking to get connected to the community. We're having events. Hey, I got an idea. Hire a clown. Invite a clown out." So see this constant change in a lot of the military spouses out in town in Fayetteville, and this can really be a big problem if you are a military spouse that wants to stay somewhere for 20 years, build up a great business. And unfortunately, most of the time, that is an impossibility because we need troops to move around different bases for some reason. And this really affects the spouse because a lot of spouses now are, go getters, game changers, business owners, entrepreneurs, and can be very difficult to build up a following if you have to move every 3 to 4 years. So, one thing that ACS really does, I think, very well, is encourages spouses to start businesses and provides a lot of great counseling to keep those businesses going no matter where they go. Number four, access to quality childcare and education. The transient nature of military life and the demanding schedules of service members make consistent access to affordable, high quality childcare a significant issue. Waiting lists for on base childcare can be long, and finding suitable off base options can be challenging. Similarly, frequent school changes can impact children's academic success, and finding schools that meet specific educational needs, especially for children with special needs, can be a major hurdle. So, when we uh, think about an army post, for example, we'll just single that out. Most army posts have been designed as a mini city. They have a department store, a grocery store, school systems, child care facilities, recreational facilities, gyms, houses, uh, community centers. I mean, they have all these different types of things, but it's very important to remember that space is limited. So when there is a rapid influx and the need for the military, like when I was in the military from 2003 to 2007, a lot of active duty troops were coming in, signing up. The military was growing and expanding. So there were a lot of challenges uh, finding child care facilities, getting into schools. And ACS works really hard to find all of these options out in town for their children. And finally, this I have this at number 5, but this is a very important issue not only when you are in the military, but when you get out, mental health and well-being. The cumulative stress of deployments, frequent moves, financial pressures, and the potential for combat exposure can take a toll on the mental and emotional well being of the entire military family. Spouses may experience isolation and anxiety, while children may exhibit signs of stress. Service members returning from deployment may struggle with PTSD, TBI, or other mental health issues, impacting family dynamics and requiring specialized support. So, the one of the main reasons why I volunteer with ACS, spend so much time counseling a lot of these families that I find, is that uh, we are faced with two options as veterans. One, we can wait until we get out of the military and wander into a VFW or some American Legion, people we don't know, and strike up a conversation and find a sense of community and say, okay, give me the list of all of your resources for people dealing with serious mental issues. Uh, I will say very few veterans do that. So the reason why I spend so much time volunteering with ACS on Fort Bragg is because I want to go to them. I want to go to where active duty troops are and their families and really encourage them to get involved in ACS and the programs that the U.S. Army is providing for free of charge to work on when they get out, to work on how to deal with life after a deployment, to deal with life after PCS, to deal with life after separation from the military, the ACS. And there are a lot of great programs that I just mentioned earlier that really help families deal with the stresses of having to change so much, change the routine so much, find meaning and purpose in where they are going after the military. When I was a firefighter, the first thing they taught us was when you go into a building, you don't spray the flames on the wall. You spray the base of the fire. You spray what started the fire, and then you work out from there. So it's very important for us as veterans to understand that when I was in the military, I didn't have anybody coming to me like this. I didn't have any artists or entrepreneur or anybody coming to me when I was in the military going, "Hey, listen, I want you to work as hard as you can while you're in, but when you get out, you are still going to need to work as hard as you can, uh, not only to make a name for yourself, but make sure that you are reaching others and being a good influence and making a positive contribution on the veteran community around you." So, uh, at that event I was at yesterday, it was probably 200 degrees outside. The event went from 9 in the morning until 12, and the event ended at 12. Most everybody was packing up at 11:50, but I still had a line of people for balloons. So before everybody started packing up, I walk over to the side of the line and I say, "Hey, I want to show you guys a little magic trick. I want to thank you guys so much for coming out today. I'm going to be making balloons here as long as there are people in my line because I want to talk to every single person that came out today that wanted to come see me for a balloon." And the event ended at 12. Everybody was closed up except for my tent, and I stayed making balloons until about 12:45. People were waiting hours in my line because when they come up, I really want to encourage these kids not only to be excited about school, but to stay strong and work hard at just being a good military kid. And also a charge to the parents as well that we have a very important responsibility not only to protect the safety of our country, but uh, these children are going to need strong parents for when they decide to leave the military. And when I talk to these kids, and talk to the adults. I say, listen, if you want to make a good, positive impact on society, work on being an artist. You have to think creatively. I tell kids, I say that, I've seen all kinds of military movies where we have soldiers, all these great battle scenes, and in the movie, they happen to have a family. But one thing I've never seen is a movie told from the perspective of the military kid. What's it like growing up in a house where your dad is at training all the time? Or what's it like knowing that your mom is going to be sent to Iraq for a year? Or, what's it like uh, having your dad come back with uh, PTSD and having to get, involuntary separated for a back injury or whatever the case may be. So I really want kids to focus on, taking all that they are experiencing, all of the trouble, all of the trauma, and turning that into something awesome when they grow up. Working on skills now when they are young, making sure they are practicing their dancing, their music, their art, their uh, whatever the case may be. So when they get out, they have a good way of telling these very important stories that people need to hear. So if you have any questions for me, please contact me anytime. If you're an active duty trooper, thank you so much for your service. Welcome home, and thank you to all of our active duty families as well. I love you guys. Stay strong. Thank you guys so much for what you do. And if you are having an event, contact me today. I do free birthday parties and events for all of our active duty troops and families. Until next time, I am Gamble the Clown. We'll see you later.